Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. And here we are, part 60. Yes, I haven't done 60 episodes of anything, I don't think. I've done 50 episodes of anything. I'm going to get to episode 63 of Walking Wednesday before I finish season 2 of Mario 63. Never thought I'd see that day come. But, there you go. I had to finish that playthrough. I did say I was going to finish what I'd started last week, didn't I? And so far there's been no finishing, and really no starting, just continuing stuff. Case in point, Mutant Girl episode 4 of season 2. So, you can see now that what I said before, that the end of the classic era was upon us. I did say that before, and there you go. I mean, just to say, because it's not the classic era, doesn't mean that it's not going to be any less good. And it seems that this episode has gone down really well in terms of the initial reception. Because, I mean, the premiere was quite plentiful. Then the view spikes from then onwards have been fairly consistent. They're kind of stagnating right now. Well, not stagnating. They're kind of leveling out right now, which makes sense. Because it's been, 3 days? Oh no, 5 days. I don't know. It was this week. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is, the people who did watch it, they seem to really enjoy it. More so than the usual, I think. I could be wrong. I mean, I certainly think the response was more emotional. I can say that there was one scene that made one of the actresses almost cry. Which is interesting because she is the actress within that same scene, so she knew the script already. But good. I guess the raw reaction is not exclusive to those who are uninvolved, which I personally think is quite reassuring, not gonna lie. Oh well, in any case, that's something that I think is a good example. Like, I'm not out to, make people cry necessarily, but I mean, when Snow White came out in cinemas all the way like 82 years ago, Disney was in the audience supposedly looking at people's reactions to see if they cried, and they did. So clearly it's a sign of a good product that someone can be almost emotional, or rather emotional at once. So yeah, it depends. There you go, that's the meaning of animation for you. People don't take it seriously if they're not involved and they don't consume it regularly. Which is a shame. I wonder what Ralph Bakshi thinks of anime, actually. With all the adult edge that it gives itself nowadays. That's a subject for another day. By the way, Ralph Bakshi is a director that's was mostly popular in the 70s and 80s. He did a version of Lord of the Rings, actually, among other things. Like Cool World, Fritz the Cat, Wizards, other stuff. But yeah, he was friends with George Lucas, actually. But yeah, among other things, he was very adamant about animation, some animation being specifically for adults. So a lot of his stuff is very raunchy, controversial, etc., etc. I personally haven't seen any of his films. I only know about him through Nostalgia Critic, and also a documentary about him on YouTube as well. I don't know if I would enjoy seeing his content up front, but I am interested in watching that Lord of the Rings version, just out of interest, because it is weird the way that it changes certain things, like Saruman's name being Ahriman for half of it. I don't know. I'm not going to make this another rambly thing this week. Yeah, so basically, Mutant Girl went down a treat. So, I mean, in terms of Gacha Club, I used an emulator for that, so I could actually be ahead of the game in terms of when the PC release came out. Luckily for me, it was a day late, so that didn't matter anyway. That I was so close to the time crunch. But, yeah, but yeah, I see, considering that, that means that I would have had a maximum of a maximum of 10 days to do the video, but also that means that that's just assuming that I did so right away, which I didn't. So I don't know, maybe it was like a week or so, which is good because the first episode of the first season took me 2 weeks to figure out. So there you go. Maybe there are some things that are a little bit easier. I wonder as well what the animation looks like, you know, in terms of the movement animation. Well, all animation is movement, I should really specify. The walking. The moving from one place to another, as in. I wonder what that looks like now, because obviously they took away the animated poses that allowed the characters to walk on their own. So now it's a case of splicing the poses together in an image, which I think I pulled off. I mean, some bits were a little bit slow and clunky, but someone described the first episode of season 1 as smooth recently, so who even knows anymore? No, seriously, look that up. That's a comment on season 1, episode 1, that the animation is so smooth. First time anyone has ever said such a thing to me. It was quite bizarre. I've gone that way already, so I'm going to go up there. Yeah, I mean, I was positively surprised, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I've been critiquing that animation for a year now, so I'm quite surprised that's done when it's done. But oh well. Point is, the series is still running. There's going to be a little bit. Well, actually, no, I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to leave it as a surprise. But there is something else being worked on. Speaking of something else being worked on, Puppy Love apparently hasn't had as much of an impetus as possible. Mimi had a friend over, so she actually slowed down in terms of doing that, which makes sense. I mean, it would make sense if it hadn't been that she said, "Oh yeah, I can churn this out in a couple of days." Of course, yeah. Suddenly you realise that an episode of that length, well, 2 episodes of that length, in fact, takes a little bit longer than you thought, doesn't it, Mimi? Again, that kind of makes sense because I will say this now: the Puppy Love episodes are actually longer than the Mutant Girl episodes. It's going to be a shorter series overall, but yeah, the parts themselves are divided a little bit longer because obviously, as series evolve, they kind of get a little bit longer anyway. I would hope so. I mean, season 2, episode 3 of Mutant Girl was the longest episode yet. Season 2 mostly is I think has gone underneath the 10-minute mark yet. So that's reassuring. That's growing casually slowly. I mean, I know that episode 5 was the longest one there, but that was probably because of the presentation that ran on for quite some time. Yeah, so certain exceptions apply. I mean, I'm sure they're going to start teaching us when I go back to university how to actually write within a certain time crunch. Like, say, for example, 22 minutes, you know, like most things require you to do nowadays. When I say most things, I mean most studios, because that's, you know, their ad space. You've got a half an hour slot, you fill that up. I mean, unless you're on a streaming service, in which case, do as you will, I guess. I think. I can't really clarify that or not, but yeah, I don't know. So it's so yeah, that'll be interesting if they start teaching us to do that, because actually I do want to get that down and see how best to incorporate, you know, a 3-act structure into those things. That'll make my work even better, hopefully. Although I don't know if that'll be immediately apparent, because there's a chance I'll be starting to write season 3 at Mutant Girl recently. I did promise Aiden today that I would go and finish, well, not finish writing season 2 necessarily, but carry on writing season 2. And I've obviously got some ideas for that. I mean, yes, it's interesting because season 2, I started writing that while season 1 was still airing, because Shiny pitched the idea, and I then went and expanded it into more of a story, and then he and I kind of worked on it together, sometimes in off times, before I fired him the first time. And then during that time as well, then when I rehired him, and then fired him again. It's a weird back and forth we have going on. Or we had going on, right, I should say. Because now it's Aiden's turn. I know that Shiny said he didn't want Aiden anywhere near his script, but trust me, most of the ideas that are going to come out of there are going to be mine. I say that not because I want to reject every idea that Aiden's going to put forward, but just because I've had the whole thing planned out ever since that original meeting with Shiny. I know what I want to have in this season, and it's just roughly a matter of placement. Because I write like that, so even when I do my books as well, I have a beginning, I have an end, and it's the middle bit that I need to flesh out. So I have an end in mind. I don't write the end first, obviously, because it can change, and it has done on several occasions. But it's something that I can work towards rather than have everything, you know, being fleshed out as I went along. Interestingly enough, the Mutant Girl Season 1 was kind of the exception to that. I think in certain cases I was writing it as I went along, maybe like that I had the idea of the presentation, so at the mid-season point, and then afterwards I was thinking, how am I going to end this? Then I came up with school play, and that was that. So it was almost almost like that, but just not quite. Slightly different. I'm back at this tunnel again. Last time I was around here, I had a severe dehydration attack. I should probably turn back and go this way before anything happens. It's much cooler today, and I have water with me. Although it's in the car, so it might take a while to see that. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. We're up to episode 8. So yeah, we're just working out mostly how to conclude it now. He keeps asking me things like, "Oh, are you going to have it as 10 episodes or 12 episodes?" And I keep saying to him, "Well, it's gonna be the aim is 10, but if it goes into 12, so be it." Because there are lots of things in mind. And then also, there is the issue of the pandemic. I say that because, obviously, when we started writing Season 2, planning ahead into the future of 2020, we did not know that this was going to happen. So, that's a bit of a question now as to how to apply it. Because I do want to show the passage of time. You know, that's something that I like in animation. Well, in any story, is a passage of time. I don't like it when characters, you know, don't age. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the same shows, but they miss out on an opportunity there to do something more interesting with these characters that we've grown to know. The reason that Harry Potter became so successful is, partly because the audience that it was aiming for grew up with the books. So while it was getting new people, it was getting the old people back again. So I respect that, because again, that's something I want to do. You know, the characters started off as age 12 in the Mutant Girl, and they're now almost 14. In fact, I do want to have a birthday party involved. I'm not going to say whose, but there's going to be a 14th birthday of someone. So yeah, what else is next Gacha review? So Taming the Bad Boy episode 8 came out. Again, episode 6 still isn't emailed to me. Apparently it's still finished, but sending an email and leaving your computer on so it doesn't fault itself is too much work. I don't know. And if you think I'm getting gradually saltier and saltier, it's because I am, because it's ridiculous by this point. Like, I can't even make any more jokes about it. Someone's going to say, well, you know, if you're waiting for so long and you're not happy, then do it yourself. Yeah, see, the thing is, I would, but the thing is, all the work is already done. And chances are, what's there is better than what I could do. So, I would like to see that version and judge for myself. I've seen the way that Lizzie edits stuff. There's a chance that it's very, very elaborated and very visually planned out, which my reviews usually aren't. You'll have noticed. Actually, in fact, the episode 8 was originally supposed to be fully edited by Aiden, so I exported a 1 hour and 10-minute file to him, which again took forever, but because I kept my computer open, I was able to send it as an email. Shock and horror. But yeah, so but then he gave me back a 1 hour file, which I thought, okay, there's a chance here that he hasn't cut out a lot of the fluff, as I like to call it. Because I mean, in most of those reviews, I mean, you've seen the ones that go on for hours and hours, that there's a lot of pointless fluff in there, where we just deviate the conversation, talk about something else, and don't keep focus on the review. And I could keep that stuff in, easily. But the thing is, I don't want to, because it's, because the video is so long anyway, that if I have to cut something out, you know, they say kill your darlings, that's the darling that I'm going to kill. It's, yeah, it's part of a storytelling thing as well. I mean, I suppose, in a way, we are telling a story, we're just analysing it at the same time. That's the difference. And obviously there was a little bit of a story in between there, of the now rather outdated Mimi being proposed to by Caroline. She's trying to clarify that it was going on for comedic intent or whatever. No one said it wasn't going to be comedic intent. Like, we knew at the time, like when it was made back in January, we knew that you were going along with it for the laughs, because, I mean, you were laughing the whole time, actually. You could barely formulate the sentence. But yeah, so we weren't thinking, oh yeah, she seriously wants to marry Mimi, like right now, you know, after, as she said in the video, 2 days of knowing her. No, no one's going to do that. Anyone who's seen Frozen knows that's a really bad idea. But, so, yeah, and that was, again, Aiden requested that to be a gacha in the middle of the series, and, well, middle of the episode, sorry, in the middle of the episode. And so I ended up making that. And Caroline was actually quite picky about the way that she was designed, which actually I can respect, because you do want your character to be accurate to yourself. I mean, I still remember that Nasib made me a Mifwa for no reason. Granted, I didn't have my own, you know, Gacha OC back then. Again, OC referring to, I use in the sense of my sprite, my version of myself on there rather than just an original character. But yeah, I didn't have a Gacha OC at that point. So that was the first version. I mean, not to mention that Jacob Buta was infinitely worse, but that's a whole other can of worms. I just went in a circle. I realised I'm on the same street that I started out on. Fair enough. What was I saying? Yes. So that marriage skit actually. Now, given that it's a Gacha club and I used the new backgrounds, I think it turned out pretty well. And someone, well, Mixels Pixels, I should say. I'm not going to say someone, because she's going to be a very well-known figure. Mixels Pixels, by the way, made the thumbnail for The Amusing Girl Season 2, Episode 4, which I think is my favourite one so far. I said this in the video at the time. And she also made the fan art at the beginning. But she also edited the Gacha Review logo, and also did a meme of the meme-line proposal, as I like to call it. Yeah, so, and she even used the same characters as well. Well, actually, no, she used Caroline's same one. She changed Mimi's back to the one she already had, because my goodness, Mimi's OC still every time gets worse to draw. It's just like she adds more and more detail to it each time. And the thing is that I watched Modern Life is Goodish. Well, I watch that all the time. But I watched an episode of Modern Life is Goodish. Don't know what series it was. Don't know what episode. It was an episode. And what the guy Dave Gorman was saying, if you remember, Dave Gorman was, I mentioned him in my 496 video back in April. Wait, no, back in February. Yeah, back in February 29th. Leap year day. But yeah, so back in leap year day I mentioned him. But yeah, Dave Gorman mentioned that it's like mentioned that it's like a child with a colouring book, and they just don't know when to stop. So he gave 4 example photos of a book, not a book, a picture that was coloured in by a child. So you had the original sketch, you had kind of like initial bits, what was seen to be a finished product, and then they just kept on going, and the colours was all contrasting. It was all filled in way too much. It was all like scribbled in a lot. So yeah, and he said that if anyone with any sense would say that their favourites of those drawings were either 2 or 3, the bits in between. And I can see exactly why that is. Looking at Mimi's OC, it seems like that inner child that she has, or, well, not very inner, to be honest, if you meet her, like, my word. But, nah, I'm joking. That's a great thing to hold on to. Embrace your inner child, people. Be like Mimi. Only in that sense. Only in that sense, be like Mimi. I'm just going to clarify that. But yeah, so Mimi's inner child is kind of like that, so she still keeps on colouring in that same OC. What can I do to make this even better? What can I do to make this even better? I know what you can do to make it better. Leave it. It's fine. Because we've kind of gotten used to the other Mimi OC. Well, actually before the one where she gave herself a black eye. Yeah, that was the thing that happened. But now we have the new one, I guess. I mean, I feel like her most recognizable one is going to be the pseudo cat, with the pink fringe and everything. The one in the first Gacha review episode, actually. I feel like that's going to be her most recognizable one. Also, from a branding point of view, it doesn't make sense to keep changing your main OC all the time. Because the thing is, Mimi doesn't show her face in most of her videos, which I can respect, You don't need to, especially if you're a Gacha tuber, actually, because you have a face anyway that you can make your own, past the fun of Gacha, if you so desire. But if that face keeps changing, it suddenly gets a little bit harder to engage, I find. Obviously, given that Mimi and I are friends, I wouldn't be one to tune out, but I wonder if her audience will. Or perhaps not. Maybe I'm misjudging the Gacha community again, because I mean, I know that the way that I view Gacha is a little bit different to what the mass populace do. Well, I say the mass populace hate Gacha. I mean, the mass populace of the Gacha community. I mean, because mostly they actually like the art of it and the way it can be edited and and tweaked and everything. Meanwhile, I see it as a tool to tell stories, which some people do, but mostly it's art. I mean, there's a little bit of a crossover. Again, Mimi is a good example of that. And but yeah, I find that actually also I found that there's the stories make it more interesting for me. Case in point, Dramadonia. Actually, that's a good segue, because the other video I did this week that I uploaded mere hours ago was a Gacha review of a channel this time. I'd never reviewed a channel before, but it was surprisingly refreshing. Something to do on my own, improvise the script, cut out where I stutter or whatever. It felt okay to do, actually, as a way to get my thoughts out. And also, went with Gacha Club and my OC again and everything, which has remained the same, as is unsurprising. But yeah, this channel in particular, again, is mostly story focused. I didn't mention this in the video at the time because I only started really noticing it when I watched the later videos and everything. But you know how I say that the Meeting Girl started off with extras, but it slowly stopped having them because, they they were clogging up the character models and everything. It's not easy to save them on PC mode and everything, so I just kind of scrapped the idea of having extras altogether. Well, Dramadonia clearly does not have that issue. I mean, even though she was using Gacha Life at the time, you know, the main user of Dramadonia, who I don't know if I should call Dramona or not, because she is Dramona, but not exactly. I have a feeling that that's actually a pseudonym as well. Well, I suppose I can say Dramona because, in a way, Jacob Buss was also a pseudonym. So, yeah, I guess. So yeah, Dramona has made it so that there are extras involved a lot of the time, and it feels like the neighborhood is alive because all the extras can have their own personalities and stuff going on, and they do. Because if you've seen the video, if not, I recommend it. It's a holistic universe. I feel like it's one of my best reviews actually, which is surprising because I made it in a day rather than preparing it for a while. But maybe it's just a topic that I'm more passionate about. This channel somehow connected with me instantly, and that's something I definitely appreciate. Because I'm quite picky in terms of what I engage with for more than one episode, or if it's just a series or something. Especially when it comes to Gacha, because I've seen so many rather mill Gachas that suddenly having an animated and voice acted thing with extras, narration, good storytelling, clearly some sort of script as well. It was really refreshing. And even though she started like trending a lot, well not a lot, but trending a fair amount because of her featuring on GachaTube, which is how I found her in the first place, I'd still say she's a severely underrated channel. I kid you not. Like, I really hope that, you know, she soars to the high heavens, not dies. She metaphorically soars to the high heavens in terms of channel growth. I mean, it's just, it feels like somebody living in a creepy neighborhood, and it's really well done thus far. I mean, I could say that, you know, the one thing I guess to do better would be to get more voice actors so that you have more variety. Which, if you want that, call me. You know, find my Discord, because I definitely will be the voice of Pastor Super Saiyan if you want. If you don't know who Pastor Super Saiyan is, then you haven't seen my review yet, or Dramadonia's channel. So check both of those out. Oh. And I only scratched the surface there. I didn't want to give away too much. The last video that I reviewed on there was The Thing, Part 1. The Thing Part 2 is already out. It was out immediately afterwards. I just didn't touch it because it was because I thought, you know what, let's see if people engage it. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to go back home and I'm going to watch The Thing Part 2, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. I probably won't review it because, I know, unless people want more reviewing of Dramadonia or whatever, I might do a return to Dramadonia or something like that. That could be fun. Return to Dramadonia. I mean, not gonna lie, I want to talk about this channel more, if I'm honest. And as for that new format of reviews, I feel like that's a lot better. I don't do that with my collab reviews because it takes up too much time. Because again, the one that I did with Mimi took a month to prepare because I had to think about the individual placing of each of the characters rather than having a predetermined like set of poses that I can just use over and over again and still keep it varied, which I think I did. I don't know. Let me know what you thought of that video in, I guess, the comments of that video. Maybe not this one. I don't know. I just want more people to see that channel. Subscribe to Dramadonia, people. Like, seriously. Okay, I think that's enough. I've gone in about 3 different circles, and I'm about to get back to where I'm supposed to be. So, that's enough rambling for this week. So yeah, please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters. Subscribe to Dramadonia, and on that note, until next time, farewell.